you're gonna be on the video being a little bitch.
Plan for the trip when we started out was to drive the Pamir Highway and see as much mountains and country as we could.
We had a bunch of small mountain ranges to drive through and a larger loop through the Pamir Mountains. And we were just gonna drive along, have good times, and look for big ice and climb it.
We rented a van called an Uaz Buhanka, which is a pretty badass rig. It's got high clearance, winter tires, 4x4, and would honestly put any sprinter to shame.
All right, we're gonna get some shit done, boys.
Let's hear that baby purr.
This does not sound like it's gonna start. We haven't even left the city.
So the van totally sucks, but we have a strong team.
So we got Grandpa Drew, and
This cigarette's being a piece of shit.
we got Daddy Jack.
I don't want to be smoking on film, but Jackson's just 24, so he's still super dumb, but he's a better climber than I'll ever be.
Leading up to this trip, we still hadn't found much information or photos, but a lot of things pointed to there being ice out there, just not a lot of hard evidence.
I thought I was pretty smart. I used 18 gigabytes of fancy Japanese satellite data to pinpoint the cliff band with the gnarliest ice. We were pretty psyched. Got up here. What did we find? About 50 feet of water ice 3+. I am an idiot.
We drove up a lot of valleys and didn't see shit. And then sometimes we turned a corner and boom.
Give me the rundown, what's going on?
Trying to figure out how to get across the river. Should be exciting.
Yeah, Jack! Look at that iceberg! You guys going for it.
Little nippy. And crossing the river really was the hard part. After that, the climbing felt easy. Well, maybe not easy. But I eventually got up the thing.
All right, it's getting dark, let's get back to the van. Get to the pair of approach shoes that we all decided to share. They had frozen, rock solid. That's cold! My feet are still numb from that day.
Spotted this cool looking pillar, but it was on the sunny side of the valley. We hiked up to it to give it a look, and I thought, no way it's gonna go. Drew was more optimistic.
Headed up without gloves, so rock climbing, bare hands. Right away, got pretty flash pumped. There's a couple sloper moves, and I got a heel hook, doing some screaming, pulled the move, got up on this little ledge system, and traversed out onto the ice. Started climbing up, and it was just vertical slush. I was getting poured on. So I decided to traverse a little bit right onto this delambed ice. It was like this thick. My tools went straight through it. So I tiptoed on that. And every once in a while, I'd hear Jack just scream ice. Then I'd hear a chunk of ice then explode.
Drew, clip the red rope. The purple one is cut.
Like through that section, I had bad thoughts. It was very relieving topping out, and I felt like I got away with something.
That's fucked up.
I'm like nauseous.
Are ya? Jackson said all your screws pulled.
Yeah, it was like climbing a snow cone.
The roads we drove were pretty bad.
Drove a lot of dirt, potholed roads, and like I had never seen before asphalt with ruts in it. I didn't know that was really possible.
Just 6 hours in this?
Total whiteout on the
25.
second highest highway in the world, unplowed.
I remember blowing around one corner, foot and a half of wind drift snow, and just thinking like, we're gonna get stuck up here, it's getting dark.
We drove roughly the distance from New York City to LA, driving 35 miles per hour. Like we went 2 days with seeing like 3 vehicles total. I remember I was like, oh shit, like where are we?
Who's back there? Whoa, he's on it! He's on it!
But all the craziness was worth it.
Dude, this is the fall. Whoa! I feel like we just found the Fountain of Youth, or like El Dorado or shit.
This is the wall.
I like ice climbing because there's still a lot of adventure. Like we can come here and there's all these ice flows that people haven't seen. You can look up and it's so deceiving. Sometimes it looks easy and it's hard. Sometimes it looks hard and it's easy.
Snow leopard, maybe?
Yep.
It's not like sport climbing where you're doing a lot of technical moves. It's a yes/no problem-solving scenario. It's yes, pull down, no, swing again, or tap lighter. Yeah, but it's mostly just yes/no. Yeah, enjoying it. What do you think, Drew?
Epic.
Cold.
Man, Jackson can say that it's a yes/no scenario, but for me, it's just sheer terror, pretty much the whole time. The consequences of catching a crampon on the ice in the fall are so severe that it's just, I'm always on the verge of panic.
Tell me about your pitch.
Looks like it's not that hard. Turns out it's kind of hard. At least the ice is hard. Really cold out.
The Bohanka was a piece of shit.
Demonstration.
How loose that is?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, the alternator's just straight, not attached.
Didn't just explode.
Yeah, along the way we broke the belt tensioner assembly for the alternator. So that was fun. That took a couple days off. And what else did we break?
Doorknobs,
The rear view mirror fell off.
window knobs,
The fuel gauge really didn't work that well.
fan belt.
All the time it's just rattling, making these terrible noises.
Transmission felt like it was gonna fall out.
Frozen in gear.
Well, all 4 doors had different keys.
And Jack broke one of those keys the first day.
We had to put some cardboard over the radiator because cold air would just rush in and freeze our feet.
Yeah, what didn't we break on that thing?
Think Jack Buhanka finally broke down.
I think the Bianca will be okay. Just kind of seem to know what they're doing. I'm impressed with their work ethic. Yeah, the van's definitely struggling. Hopefully the gearbox gets fixed. Our 40 hours driving back goes okay.
This is fucked. They literally super glued that bearing back together. I don't want to get stuck out here.
We had kind of one more mountain range to explore before going back into Kyrgyzstan.
But as we drove, it got worse and worse, and it seemed like we weren't going to make it all the way in. But just as the road was getting too bad, we weren't going to drive anymore. We looked up to our left, and we just spotted a huge hanging column of ice.
I don't think the question was ever asked whether or not we were going to go climb it. We just sort of started packing bags.
We were all looking at it and we're like, oh yeah, it'll probably take like 2 hours, 3 hours to approach. 5 or 6 hours later, we got to the base.
From the bottom, we soloed a 70-meter pitch of like water ice 4 after a little bit more trail breaking and post holing. Put us at the base of the main flow.
and we craned our necks up at it, and it was hard to see if the ice was going to be difficult or not, but Drew took off on the first lead, and it was pretty clear pretty quickly that the ice wasn't very good.
Ice seemed like it was formed with snow falling down, catching, then kind of consolidating. So you could throw a tool in and pull on it, and a lot of times it would just rip right through.
And from the top of that pitch that Drew led, I led up a spooky pillar that was just creaking and groaning, and so you couldn't really swing hard. You're up there dancing a delicate dance.
What do you think? You're on video.
I think it's pretty steep. It's like 4 o'clock and we're 1.5 pitches up.
Jackson, he just went up this line and just like with not that many screws on really hard ice.
You knew the gear wasn't going to be any good, and he didn't hesitate. He went right for it. Little light swings with either tool.
And the last pitch on it, yeah, a wild cauliflower pitch up into like an ice corner, and had my tool hooked through some mank in the back of this bulge trying to pull up over it. And I just remember that tool sort of ripping and just like throwing my left arm up over this cauliflower, just like, oh shit.
Got on that ice and he was so comfortable and so relaxed.
Yeah, he was throwing bullhorns. He was yelling about how beautiful it was. He was spotting birds as he's leading this really steep water ice 6 pitch.
Yeah, apparently I got a no hands rest up there and slid my headlamp on over my helmet. One of the things you're supposed to do before you start leading when it's getting dark.
Ow, ow, nighttime. Yeah.
You can see my hand throwing up some devil horns.
Jackson's goddamn hero.
Jackson's the man. Drew's pretty cool too.
Yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. Smiling it up, man. That's
Fucking
rad.
stoked. That was a good route. When you start to have goals and ambition, it can really take away from the experience. You lose a lot because you're so focused on obtaining that specific achievement. The thing I learned the most on this trip was it's really good to just let go of those ambitions sometimes and to just go and explore.